Hello, everyone. It is Matthew. It is Friday, June the 12th, and wow, what a week we just had. Um, Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing watching a system roll out like that. For those of you that have followed me for a couple weeks now, seeing wins and losses working together to form a profitable system is just an amazing thing. So let's keep sticking with it. Let's keep doing what we're doing well. And over time, this will generate incredible opportunity for us. So the goal is to remain disciplined, do things that we keep doing that are working well over and over again. This should get boring. And I know that sounds terrible, but that's the name of the game is for us to become professionals and for it to become boring. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. And oh, great. I guess I could do that later. Thanks for the assist there, Dell. So let's just jump right into it. Looking at the dollar index here, I always mark where the start of the week is. This would have been Sunday night, and the U.S. dollar has sold off so much. And an interesting note here is that it did sell off quite a bit, but it's actually come back to basically break even. Another great reason why I strongly believe in targets on our price action, why I trade patterns, why I get out, why I go to break even, and why I follow and trail with stops all the time. Okay, so we had the breakout of this pattern down. Now we were all looking left because we're professionals. We're looking left, and this caught our eye, and that's recorded on Sunday. This was for it to get down here without a pullback such as this. That's a pretty long stretch for me. So looking at the dollar, we started to get a lot of blue and really rich blues on this heat mapping indicator that I've been working with, and you can see that it does correlate with the pullback. Let's move on because I don't trade specifically the U.S. Dollar index. I use it for a barometer, but let's look forward. So we talked about this on Sunday, and I didn't do a Wednesday night recording, but I will ensure that the coming week all the videos will be present. So we looked left. We had an area of resistance here. Price broke out of this triangle. We moved up, and we talked about how we wanted to see it. I'm going to drop time frames here. We wanted to see it drop through the trend line. Dropping through trend lines is a very important tool. It allows you, and just using this as an example, it allows you to see as trends are changing. So if we didn't have any of this price action here, we have price rolling up, bouncing off these trend lines, and it did drop through close. And if you had traded this and you started to use some of the tactics that we use in the group, if you had started to look at whole numbers, well, there's one there. So 1.14, and then this is the shaded area looking left on the resistance zone. This is just such a run up. You had this drop through the trend line, and if we had put our stop somewhere up here, like we're constantly training to do, observing those whole numbers, observing those areas of support and resistance, and we had just sat there, this would have been one of those examples where this trade would have just constantly gone against us. But because we manage risk, we know where our stops are, and that we are professionals in our approach, it would not have mattered. And we'll get to that when we talk about the US CAD trade. So we would have had our stop up here, and it's rolled off. Now, at this point, you would have basically just been at break even, but it would have been traded accordingly. Otherwise, you might have missed a whole move that could have rolled away and left you in the dust. So because of this area, price tried to make it one last little push, presented a beautiful, well, I guess more just indecision candle in my opinion. And then it was after this shooting star that price really dropped away. And then we look at these patterns all the time. Let me just pull up. We had the extreme drop, a bit of a swoop in my opinion, but often you could say it's not flagged. I wouldn't say that, but it had that approach where it's coming back up, it's relaxing back up, testing those EMAs. You can see that it just couldn't even close above them, and another signal, and traders knew which direction things were happening. So just as our biases constantly need to be in check, and we need to just be able to not be too reactive on our biases and allow the charts to tell us what's what. All right, so moving on, the US yen, US dollar yen pair. I did not really trade it at all, I don't think, this week. And you can see there's no real annotations on the chart, but I did trade gold, and I posted gold as a discussion a few times, scalped it from last night onto this morning. I thought it would break away further, but I already took off because it was Friday. I already took off a little bit of my profits and went to break even. So it worked out in the end. But yeah, so this yen pair is negatively correlated to gold. And that was something that I was watching very closely. And you can see gold is, so there's my entry, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Interesting area, we'll talk about that in a sec, but it is negatively correlated. You can see gold has been running up. So that's why I didn't trade this. And these little correlations, and we saw it in that US dollar CAD pair that we traded, and just nailed it this week, guys. So excellent work, everyone. So I'm going to do a breakdown Sunday. This is just a bit of a wrap up, but Sunday we'll do another breakdown and have a really good look at what we've got going on to get comfortable once the pivots update. So all these pivots, these are my pivots here, and I wait for Sunday night open for them to be adjusted. It's an important thing for me to watch. So the pound USD was an actual trade discussion that I posted here, but it was just a discussion. I didn't have anything that I was loving, and it did break to the downside. Now this trend line here, this lime green one, I didn't move, and you can see it's touching this. But this is a great example of just yet again pattern trading, waiting for setups. You had these peaks and it broke and it dropped through it. You can see a little bit of a pullback, that's called a shortfall. And then it dropped right through, even through the 200 EMA. Now it's just a 1 hour 200 EMA, but it dropped through, whether it's on a 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, it doesn't matter. This trend line matters. You can see we're in an area of resistance as I have it highlighted in shading. And it's pulled back up and it just kissed this area. Like just kissed it. And if you didn't have any of this information here and you were just presented with that, I think anyone with a little bit of an inkling of technical analysis would have seen us breaking through a strong area that had been tested multiple times, dropped through, retest, strong engulfing pattern, and then you had that drop away. And if you had been prepared for it, and maybe even being very conservative using the 50% fib entry, that confirmation squared video in my training video, and dropped away, there's 170 pips that you would have snagged. Now that's a perfect world, but it gives us an idea of some of the patterns that we can trade and just basic structure of price. This is what everyone's looking at. Don't get too hung up. Oh, there's an engulfing there. Oh, there's a high wave candle here. It's where these candles are that are so important. And I'll just, as I go along in my trading journey, I will just keep on explaining all these things to you. So yet again, there was a lot of trades this week, and I think those 4 or 5 trades that we put out there at full take profits were 2 to 1, risking 1% with a 2% upside. If you made it to full profit, you had 8 to 10% you made this week. Now, maybe last week you didn't make any money, or maybe next week you won't make any money. But if you can control your downside during these times, I think you can very much see how powerful this system is, and this is what professionals are doing. So yet again, we have this area here of resistance. This is a rising wedge, and rising wedges, especially creeping up into an area of resistance, will drop away. You can see this was the information that I had on Wednesday, and you can see that I was annotating these actions, and we got the break to the downside. We did run up a little bit, but if you had your stop up here, observing those whole numbers, you had your stop up here out of the way, and that's why I used pivots. I would have been up here. You can see that we would have weathered that storm, and we would have dropped away, and we would have been maybe in here somewhere. Maybe you had a break and a retest, but we're just constantly following price around charts. But you can see even the arrow that we had it listed as a nice drop away, and it's done that. So we're going to keep an eye on that for next week. Sunday, I will start another breakdown video and we will highlight areas that we want to get excited about. And on Sunday, I get rid of all of the markings and I start fresh and we get right into it. So the US Swissy, this was a bit of a scalp. Now, I was actually not with my computer, and truth be told, I mentioned getting out, and I do believe that's a good. We're basically right back to where we started. We took the trade right here after this little run up. I like to see me being right at these EMAs. It was close enough for me. I looked left. I will be honest, I did this off my phone. I knew my lot sizing. Because had already traded this pair, so I knew roughly what I was looking at. I don't really suggest that. It's not something I talk about often, but this isn't the public group anymore. It's the private group. So just being honest, I actually set an alarm on my phone, and I was riding down. I live in Costa Rica. This place is ridiculous. I'm riding my motorbike down a road, and I can hear my alarm going off. And I had already left I opened a little local business. And I heard my alarm going off. And by the time I had pulled my phone out, after I pulled over to the side of the road and had poor, spotty data or like cell tower connection, whatever it's called, by the time I went to go close this trade, I'm actually holding it. Now, this is where I am highlighting to you guys. I am telling you, because I've made all these mistakes, I've lost lots of money doing this. I know what not to do. I am telling you, this is another reason why risk management is so important. If this gapped up or there was a major issue or something along those lines, it's okay because we have stops in place, we have risk management in place. Even if this jumped up here and took us out and our stop was down here, ouch, but it's not catastrophic. And that's what's so important in our trading. We drive that vehicle, we put our seatbelt on, not to be a negative Nancy, but we put our seatbelt on because it's so important for us to know statistically that bad things can happen to us. So let's just, it could gap down, but I'm just telling you that this was the situation I found myself in. This is the reality of trading a live account. And we are right back to where we are, but I never did get out of the trade. And at any rate, that is why we trade the way we do. It's all so important. So we had price run up. I got in there. We watched it go along. Now, I wasn't nervous, and I honestly felt kind of bad for you guys because I know that I put out a trade idea, and especially with our new member this week, I felt I want to be good. I want to provide great trade ideas, but you can see that we didn't quite get to this left before the trade idea came out, but I believe it's a good trade. We're going to come down and then we're probably going to run away, but this needs to relax. I also, in another group, had mentioned this 50% pullback. It never even got there. It was kind of sad because this was clearly just a beautiful trade. It was from a fairly major news event today, but look at that. Like, what a run up to have missed. So, as a professional trader, you have to look at your decision making and you have to be honest with yourself. Did that affect me getting in too soon to try to chase a trade that I lost? I had a limit order set down here and I never got a piece of this. So, just being honest, but something to look at, something to think about, that we need to be always aware, hyper aware that even after a winning streak, especially, are we making decisions based on sound technicals and fundamentals of what we're doing, or are we making decisions based on fear and greed and FOMO and all those sort of other biases that we carry? So, anyways, we'll worry about that next week. But I am in that trade, and I hope you guys protected yourself. So. I'm going to look at it again. I don't believe this is a double top to go to the upside. I'm going to look at it Sunday, but nothing that I traded was the New Zealand US dollar this week. US dollar CAD, this is our bread and butter trade of the week. And I think this really highlighted just the patience that if we show, now we got in here. This was because I saw a price breaking north and I thought we were going to a little pull back and continue up. We didn't get that. We got this sell off and a lot of you guys were panicked, but it never got to that area where we put in our stop. Now, as we discuss, this is swing trading. This is where you want to be. Sitting at your computer, tense, sweating, and I've done all this. martingaling your account to try to get some money out of the markets is not comfortable and it's not sustainable. You want to trade sustainably. So price went up 215 pips from that entrance. Um, Once we got to break even, which was right around there. Yes, it took a little bit of time. Yes, we watched a trade go against us. Yes, it formed that beautiful candle. Yes, we could have got in here. Yes, yes, yes. But this is trading. We don't know any of this. So we have to focus on the fundamentals. It was a good trade. It reacted here. It gave us a flag. It was a good trade. We weathered a storm such as economical news or economic news. And bravo. I'm very proud of myself for trading it this way. I was getting a lot of messages. You guys clearly did not take, some of the guys in the public group did not take the training of where I'm explaining these areas of take profit and your stops. But either way, even if you got taken out once and re-entered after this candle here, you can see that this was a great trade. Now this, I think on the 2 hour was a little bit better. Yeah, this was a beautiful trade. And it just took off. And, I'm a little interested to see if we did the beautiful. So if we had deployed our best system here, which is that confirmation squared, it would have run up. We would have kept falling with our fib. Eventually, it would have run down, hit, and we would have caught the meat of this. And let's be honest, this was a one of the more swift trades that I've taken in a little while. This was great. Look at that. It barely stalled. It one down candle in a 2 hour period out of how many periods is that? Like it was just off to the races. So bravo. And even on a daily, look at that. Like people see this and it just took off. So excellent. We'll look at this next week. Maybe we'll look at a pullback, but bravo for trading your system. And so this is another trade that we've been talking about. It's retraced quite a bit. This is the entrance that I was looking at. I'm breaking down for other people. I think we have broken. Now, it was even up against here, and I called it in the group saying, we're really pressed up against this trend line. Let's see if I can illustrate why I felt that way. So you can see that this rejection was met swiftly. If you look back on these rejections, it came up, was rejected, and dropped away. This one came up, even you can see the head and shoulders pattern in there, and then it dropped away. These sort of patterns where they come up, nick the trend lines and drop away swiftly, that's not what happened here. It came up, dropped away, came up, kept moving up, and it just kept moving up, and then eventually it blew right through it and carried on. So in my opinion, this is a pullback, a retest of this area, and then now we're going to be heading off to the races. You can see how flat these EMAs are, and then now they're starting to spread out, and we're gonna head on up. So that's how I'm positioned. I'm actually in this trade already, so I'm into profit, and I have my stop. A lot of times it sucks watching things go against you, but it sucks watching a good trade end up in negative territory. So I just didn't want that. I can always re-enter, and once you get used to that, it sucks, but you'll become much more comfortable in your trading as you go to break even. But not just going to break even because you're 3 pips in a profit, and we'll just slowly learn all this as we go. So I'm in that trade, that EuroCAD trade. This was the one that we talked about last week. I posted a trade idea on Sunday, and you can see that this was just a gravy train of a trade. So we had that clearly at a resistance line going back, I guess, quite a bit of time. So you can see I had this line set, and I was using the inside of these areas, the whole change of polarity where things break through, but it never did. So we're going back to this being a beautiful resistance line, and we took the trade for many reasons, especially this candle here. It kind of went sideways, and then we dropped away. I hope a lot of people wrote this out, but this is where it's flagging, and we had a rollover, and we hit full 2 to 1. Now, at this point, I'm not sure where this is going to go. It can go anywhere. It can pull back up, but this is the pattern that we're trading. This was a 2 to 1 trade, and just an absolute beautiful setup. It went a little bit further, but it also retraced well back into profit, or back into, I guess, less profit if we hadn't taken our money. Always be proud of what you get. And there'll be times where I've done it where I'm just flustered and I know I shouldn't be engaging with the market, and I just close everything. And I walk away and I just let my mind clear, say I'm going to take a day or two off and I'm going to look at it when things start to make sense again. That is not a bad thing. And when I started learning, hearing my mentors say, I'm sitting on my hands, I don't know what's going on. And we don't have all the answers. All we're trading are probabilities. So not knowing what's going on, taking your money when you earn it is never a bad thing. This was a trade idea that I put out on Sunday. You can see that I had highlighted this head and shoulders pattern. It's something that I wasn't sure, but I felt like it was going to drop through this this line. Now it never did that. So as a head and shoulders pattern, what you can do, an aggressive move is to enter here, but the more conservative move is to allow it to break, allow it to pull back, retest the neckline, and then to drop away like we saw um, where was that? I forget off the top of my head. No. Uh, where we had that break, we had that retest. Now this is in a head and shoulders pattern, but where we had the break, we had the retest, and we moved on. So that to me is how you trade. You watch that setup, you watch it break, you set your limit order a little bit into a little bit south of the neckline. It gives you room for a spread, gives you room for if it doesn't quite make it, you get into the trade and you move down and you maybe put your stop up here or something like that. But that's how we're going to trade, just constantly finding those patterns, finding those setups, and taking them accordingly. So the Euro Swissy, I think I've already highlighted this because I think this will be a trade for next week. You can see what we were talking about where we had a break. You can see a very clean trend line. We've had the break of the trend line. If you look back left, we have a clear area of support, a clear double bottom potentially starting or at least showing as support. And uh, and so what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on this. We're right at that support line. You can see I have all of this shaded. It is showing on, this is on a daily. It is on a daily. This is, we'll call it a tweezers. That's what it's technically called in technical analysis, the Japanese ancient art of technical analysis. That's where it started. And I think this is going to be the trade to watch for next week. And we can get our stop down here and hopefully we can grab some upside. The US dollar, I believe, I guess going out on a limb, will probably be going to more downside. But we need to see a little bit of a pullback before it does do that. So this I have flagged. We'll chat about it Sunday. This was just a quick market wrap up, but I know with our new member, I wanted to just welcome you and show you roughly what we're up to and what we're all about. And then you have the weekend to review this, and hopefully you can, over time, understand the patterns of what we're looking at. So let me do this. So what we have here is, I thought this was a triple bottom, and we broke below it. So yet again, triple bottom. You want to see that thrust up, pull back, and then you grab on. Waiting for confirmation is so powerful. But this, yet again, if we look at this, the euro odd, it's now pulled below this level, and we could even do this. It's now pulled below this level of support, which has now become resistance. It's called a change of polarity, and we have that roll down. We see a beautiful candle where that exhaustion has happened. These are daily candles, moved back up. Yet again, EMAs are very flat, all bunched together, and now we're dropping away. So we'll see what happens. We'll look at that next week. Um, yeah, I don't have an opinion on this yet, so we'll wait. We just need to get a couple good trades a week, guys, and we can do very well with this. It doesn't. We do not need to be in the markets all the time, trading all the time, in and out, in and out. In fact, is worse for you because of spreads and broker fees and all that sort of stuff and swap fees. So I had already started to outline this. I didn't take it, but I was already saying I believe it was going to drop away, and then we had that roll back up into this channel that we were defining, and then we're dropping away again. So let's look at that. Um, we'll look at that on Sunday, but that was something that we never traded. Here's a beautiful example of a head and shoulders. Let me see what we got here. So we have, and there's something called fractality of markets, and here's a head and or your left shoulder, your head, your right shoulder, but then also within there, something that you guys know I talk a lot about are bearish flags, and you can see this run down. You can see I've defined the flag, and it dropped out through it. Now this is kind of a not really a good, it's kind of in the way of everything. And you can see it just dropped away after, these are 4-hour candles. It just dropped away, found support at the 4-hour 200 EMA. That's why I have the EMA on there. That clearly matters. It was at a whole number. It was at a support pivot, etc., etc. And if you look left, another area. So if you start putting all these pieces together, it makes sense. Now this one didn't quite make it. Now if I was to drop a trend line right there, you can see it dropped away, came back, went to retest it, didn't quite make it back up. And that's why I just mentioned to you dropping it just below, 10, 20 pips below that neckline, gets you in for your spread, gets you into the trade, and you would have dropped away. At this point, you'd already be, if you had you'd be 160 pips. Like these are, 160, 200, 250, all these sort of things. Like these are large trades. You can do really well. Now, I'm very much a percentage guy. I've only been talking pips so much in the last little while as I've been dealing with people that are asking so much about pips. But it's something that over time we'll focus more on percentages because that's really what matters. Who cares if you made 30 pips or 40 pips? I'd rather hear I made 0.5%, 0.25%, 30%, 1, 2, 3% on a trade. That's when you're really getting into some real numbers. You're the odd CAD. Yet again, I think if we looked at this, I didn't trade it this week, but if we looked at this is another opportunity where it's run up, it's flagged, it's run up again, and maybe this whole system is a flag to the upside. But we're going to look at that later in the week. Um, this was also our baby for this week, and you can see that there's a lot of work that went into this. And you can see you're like, wow, you're really working a pattern here. We had price come up, it ran down. We got involved in this flag here. You can see I have my risk rewards. You can see that price came down. We followed it with our fib. It came back up. We got in at our 50 level. It produced this beautiful shooting star, this hammer family, and then we had the runaway. When you look at flags, you can project, this is the mast or the flagpole, and it was 200 pips. And then I projected that downward, and there's your 200 pips. And it made that. And there was our target, our 2 to 1. There's 1%, and there's 2. It's actually showing a 2, 3. I can't even see that because of the silly stuff in the way there. 2, 3. So a little even over a 2 to 1, a little more than 2 to 1, which is just stellar. And yeah, I went a little bit further in, but you can see that things find resistance or find support in this case as they are approaching our trend lines that we have started to define. So let's see what happens. I think very much it'll find support in this area and it could be carrying on, but let's just wait and we will talk about that Sunday and into Wednesday and live in the group. So what do we got? This is more for my own personal. I've been watching this. We'll talk about this. I did talk about it. I did post it as a trade idea. You can see that it was, this area of the double top. And then this is a weekly candle. And look at that. We had that beautiful run up. This is a shooting star breaking below a weekly 200 EMA. And my belief is we do this with this pair, and then maybe we'll carry on this way. But that is what I think will happen. And I'll wait, looking left, finding these areas of support and resistance. But I'll wait for that. I am in a short at this point. But anyways, so Bitcoin, was an interesting case study. We have. I did scalp it, but I was very careful this week with Bitcoin. I thought it'd go a little further, and it didn't. It's an idea that I posted over here, just as my last idea, that I just believed it was bullish. And you can see by the idea that I was wrong. And so depending on where you put your stops, and some guys know that this moves a lot, so they take the necessary precautions. But I don't know. This would be a flag in my opinion, but now you can see these strong rejection areas, and Bitcoin moves a little too much for my comfort. So we'll talk about that on Sunday. So beautiful. I made a couple bucks off this today, and you can see that it flagged. It's not something that I felt the group should have traded because of the volatility right now. And I know I'm sensing that a lot of you guys aren't trading exactly as I explain. So I'm a little worried sometimes about posting ideas that I don't want to put anyone in a position. But we had that strong run down, the big sell-off that everyone was talking about, and it ran up and it flagged and then it moved down and it's finding support down here, but we'll have to look at that next week. It's a gong show, these markets right now. And anyways, so we'll talk about that Sunday. Oil markets, this is what we were basing our US CAD trade on, and it worked out. We watched it, we saw it break through that trend line, came back up, retested it, kissed it ish, and then dropped away. And you know, you can. This is a good example right here of maybe curve fitting. So I projected a trend line here, here, and here. You can see it broke it, retested it, and dropped away. But here it also tried to retest it again. Now at this point, I know a lot of guys would have moved their trend line to here, and they would have been curve, you know, trying to fit that curve. Whether that's right or not, it's up to you. But you can see that it, as it pulled back, it respected that area, and as it pulled back, it respected that area. So whatever you're comfortable with, but trying to fit things in. Oh, you know, you would have put that. Like you have to remember, all these things are in real time. So um, yeah, at the end of the day, that is uh, that is just the method in the madness there. Gold, interesting. We're gonna be like, look at these candles just moving all over the place. We're gonna be watching this. I have alerts set. I did enter here, and you can see that it moved up nicely. And I did start to, I took some profits here. I really thought it was going to go up over the weekend. I started to take some profits, and it just followed that line. It was this one here. When I saw this candle, I entered, and it just scooped and kept on traveling down at my stop down here. And it just kept traveling up. I believe the idea that I posted in the group was quite a large one, and this is called a cup and handle. And um, you can see here is your cup, here's your handle, and then you get that run up and you get that run away. So yeah, anyways, this is that's one of the trade ideas I posted. And yeah, I wouldn't be longing at any point. We had that strong rejection. I was really happy. I took profits and went to break even. So I got taken out. And yeah, before the weekend, which is great. Silver, let's keep an eye on this one too, because this is another one. You can see I've annotated the chart, and this was a breakout idea that never quite materialized. So that's pretty much it for the week. Now this is the Hang Seng Index, and this is Hong Kong. There's so many issues globally right now. It's so sad to watch so much strife in an era where we know that it is not fruitful for human beings to be in conflict, and they all end in a signature. And anyways, that's my soapbox rant for the day. But another thing I'm watching is the U.S. dollar, Hong Kong dollar. My broker doesn't even let me trade it, but you can see it's bottomed out quite a bit of volatility here. But that's it. A little bit longer of a wrap up, but I wanted to welcome our new member, and let's rock out. Let's have a great look Sunday night. I'll do a very clear breakdown. I'll get rid of a lot of these lines, and we'll start from scratch. And yeah, I'm excited for the week ahead, and that our group is growing and our private group is growing. And as long as we keep our heads on our shoulders, understanding that this is how professional traders trade. You know, I looked at journal, a trading journal of a professional trader, and it's like he would lose like $15,000 one day, but then you know 3 4 days later he would make $100,000, and I'm sure he feels like crap when he loses 15 grand. Now he's trading other people's money, and it's a bit of a different game at that point. But 15 grand down the tubes, and you kind of wonder, am I any good? But he just got back in the saddle and starts trading away and starts doing his job all over again, rinse and repeat, boring, but that is what generates profits. And you can see the power of this. We made it through a week and dominated We dominated, and I'm telling you, people have lost their shirts and their pensions, excuse me, have eroded away just because of this little pullback. And people, how highly leveraged they were, and everything goes up, and it's all going to here. And you can see that even days ago, we mentioned the same pattern. Well, we're right back where we started. Is it a retest or is it just further downside? I don't know. But what I'm telling you is this is a process. Let's watch these videos, put the time in, read your baby pips, and I will slowly start constantly developing training videos for you, and we will continue this process together. So congratulations for taking a step and joining the group, and let's let's really do this. Let's focus on the path, focus on risk reward, understand how to apply risk management, reach out if you need clarity, and I'm excited for the week ahead. Thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend.